And we are live, everyone! Hello, everyone! It's been almost like a decade from what it feels like. Guys, we're live.
Oh, I know, and boy, oh boy, it sure has been quite a while!
Yeah.
And are you excited? Because I sure am, and why don't we also give another warm welcoming thing to our beloved friend and other co-host here, and personally my favorite friend, Knight of Green. Are you excited as well?
Eldenring DLC, yes. Yeah.
I think it was a lot. Anyway, I believe I had an article posted above a while back, but let's just discuss things ourselves just to get some general ideas. By the way, do I sound good?
Yeah, you sound fine.
You sound great.
Excellent. So yes, we have a lot of news coming up this week, especially with, 1 second, I forgot to post it on Twitter. Anyway, you guys keep talking and I will join in when we can.
Mm-hmm. Boy, oh boy! As soon as I got those tweets and also I guess some of those fake leaks, or basically real leaks, depending on how you can call it or slice it. Just a matter of fact that there's an Elden Ring DLC. I wasn't shocked that there was gonna be one. I knew there was gonna be one. Elden Ring was was the most successful game and literally one game of the year. And but boy, oh boy, I am sure excited about how they'll take the direction and approach to the story and its lore and the world building and the combat and also the armor, magic, weaponry, and so on, and boss fights.
Look, I'm just scared because DLC bosses in FromSoft games are always harder than base game stuff. We already know how Malenia is, so. Imagine if, Malenia and Radon double team you. And both in their prime. Imagine some nonsense like that. Yeah. I'm ready for
it. 1 second. Yes, I do have to agree with that statement, considering the fact that... apologies for that. The fact that Elden Ring bosses tend to be always harder than... The DLC always tends to be harder than the main game is kind of scary, considering the fact, as you said, my co-hosts, that Malenia is basically the, big boss of the game. Literally the hardest boss. Hello? Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yep. I'm just, again, I was waiting for all the DLCs to drop before I do, moveset stuff, because it's like, I would do a video all the katana movesets, and then they release the DLC katanas, and be like, dang, my video's worthless now. But if all the DLCs get released, then I will not feel bad about making moveset videos for Elden Ring weapons.
Obviously it wouldn't. That's your bread and butter, my friend. It would be very weird if you decided to not do a video on Elden Ring's DLC weapons. I'm always curious because you gotta admit that DLC weapons are always where the fun is for software.
Yeah, they usually are.
But the base game has so many good and unique weapons.
Quite a bit.
Well, gentlemen,
the base game had so much wonderful, fun things to use that having DLC stuff would be... I don't know, how crazy could it get?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's always that little... I don't know. Considering the fact that the DLC was actually might talk about Malenia. I meant not Malenia. What was Melena's sister? Malenia's sister? Brother? God, I'm tired.
That was child.
Yes.
Or come on, Mikola, sorry.
Mikola. I was gonna say Mikola, but my brain was thinking Mikolash? That was Bloodborne, because they sound so similar.
Imagine Mikola will be the hardest boss. That would be quite an interesting thing.
It would. I doubt it. It's always so interesting. But anyway, I said we do have an article to read, don't we?
We sure do.
This is always the pinnacles of my podcasts. We always talk about articles.
We sure do love our articles. In here we have Elden Ring's DLC is more interesting than the fake leaks. Elden Ring fans might have been anticipating for the rumored Barbarians of the Badlands DLC, but Shadow of the Erd Tree will be even more interesting. The build-up to Elden Ring's DLC has been long and chaotic. Ooh, it sure has. But resulted in something better than what was rumored by leaks. Publisher Bandai Namco leaked information about future Elden Ring projects. Developer From Software released the DLC adjacent Colosseum update last December, and director Hidaka Miyazaki teased more content for the game at TGA 2022. But now that confirmed information about Elden Ring's first expansion DLC has finally been unveiled, fans can rest assured that it is better than what they had previously been led to believe.
That's true. Because I'm going to say this. I'm happy that they basically gave the Colosseum as free DLC instead of basically paid with the big main DLC. So, at least...
I would have paid Colosseums anyway.
Huh?
Them Colosseums are annoying as I don't know what. I like them, but if you're not playing with friends, it's just an aggravating experience in my mind.
Yeah, I know, but let's be thankful that it wasn't paid DLC, and it was just a nice big content patch that everybody enjoyed.
I mean, I agree.
Okay. Exactly. So when the ransomware group Alpha V cyber attacked Bandai Namco last summer, the publishers on the physical roadmap for the following year was leaked, and it included the title of Elden Ring DLC expansion Barbarians of the Badlands. This name suggested that the game's first DLC was to take the Tarnished out of the lands between and into the Badlands, where they were banished before the events of Elden Ring. Although this leak was later proven to be fake, and it was nonetheless divisive. On one hand, venturing to the home of the Tarnished was an exciting prospect, but there still remain certain questions about the lands between that could be answered with additional content.
Let's be thankful they didn't do that, because otherwise there was a lot of loose threads that I feel like they really didn't answer.
Now, Elden Ring's Mikola is much more interesting than the Badlands. Ooh, let's just get into the nitty-gritty. The Elden Ring team has finally ended speculation of the Badlands DLC. However, the Elden Ring Twitter page unveiled the title of Elden Ring's first DLC, Shadow of the Erd Tree, as well as artwork that appears to feature Mikola facing dilapidated eponymous tree. Though some players will be upset about not getting to see how the Tarnished lived outside the lands between, Shadow of the Erd Tree has much more potential to offer interesting storylines and lore because of Mikola. Unlike the Badlands, the Empyrean demigod is one of the most crucial yet mysterious components of Elden Ring's lore. Involving him in the DLC could thus help reveals the game's biggest secrets.
Considering the fact that, if I'm going to say this, after we defeated Moog in his area, I'm going to say this Moog was a hell of an annoying boss to fight. Right?
Yeah, well, he wasn't that hard.
Anyway.
Moog's not the worst. He's definitely worse than most of the From Software bosses, but he's not the worst.
He's annoying because his stupid blood ritual drains half your health. The one he pierces the sky and basically drains your health.
There's a ring. There's a ring for that.
Really? What ring is that?
Oh, not ring. What's it? The thing that you put in your flask. There's a flask for it.
Oh, I never used.
Yeah, it's like, how like you can put different ingredients in your flask. There's a new flask ingredient that makes it so that when he does it, it barely hurts you.
I know, but I never really used the. I'm gonna say something. I never really used the flask for anything.
Lol. Most people just use it for infinite mana to do some that's usually what people use it for.
No.
Maybe for one hit, no damage. I get that's about it.
The Elden Ring DLC can finally show what happens to Miquella and the canon ending. One of these secrets is what happens to Miquella after the events of Elden Ring. Miquella is abducted by Mog, Lord of Blood, before the game takes place. However, the Tarnished killed Mog in a boss fight and inadvertently freed Miquella. The demigod is too weak to move during Elden Ring's story, but Shadow of the Erdtree could potentially reveal what happens after he regains his strength. From Software, could take the story in many directions from there, as Miquella would both appreciate the Tarnished for freeing him and burning the Erdtree, but also potentially loathe them for defeating his sister Melania at the Helix Tree.
With Beach Mode, I don't even know how to feel, considering the fact that, I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking too hard about it.
I don't care what he may think about me. When I beat Melania, that was an achievement. I basically got out on, the birthday platter, the birthday cake, and I basically went, woo, I won! And then I immediately got destroyed in phase 2.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
It's always the case. No matter how you spin it, Melania has forever lived the infamy of the Souls community. Let's face it, Let Me Solar Her has basically memified it. He's like the new giant dad.
He really is. Now we can see here is that this is the Elden Ring tweet right here, and it has beautiful artwork.
Could you click on the artwork so we can have a better look?
Oh, sure. Let us get closer to the tweet. Now look at this. This absolute beauty.
If anybody says that Elden Ring doesn't have beautiful visuals, I need to tell them that they haven't played the game that much, or basically didn't even bother looking at it.
The graphics are dog shit. No, they're not. They are beautiful.
They are beautiful indeed. They are
such a beautiful concept.
Oh, but the games are from like an engine 2-3 years old. So what? It still looks good. It doesn't have to be like super, super tiny, detailed, fantastic to be excellent. Graphics is only one part of it, but I'm playing it for the games. And plus, there are games that look.
See, this is the thing about FromSoft. FromSoft's not really a big studio, so they're really good at asset reusing and repurposing. So if people complain, that's like basically someone complaining about someone who knows how to recycle well, because they don't have enough manpower to sit here and keep on like popping out completely new things. So it's like, well, we got to work with what we got. So in a way, that's very respectful because they're being resourceful with what they have.
Considering the fact that a lot of animations in Elden Ring are just basically some of the animations of Dark Souls 1 zhuzhed up a bit, and Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, Bloodborne.
Some of the animations come from Demon Souls, believe it or not.
Well, considering the fact...
the slow death animation where you like slump over on a leg and like...
Oh, yeah.
That's been there since years ago. So some of these animations have been for that with other From Software games, but yeah, no, like a lot of the animations for swinging weapons are reused from either bosses, other weapons, and stuff from previous games. So, I mean, do what you can. I mean, honestly, they can make a whole lot of new experiences with stuff reused. So, I mean, I feel like it takes more artistic work to make something beautiful as something that you reuse for literally over a decade.
They did have to create some new animations with, torrent.
I'm not saying the original stuff. I know they made some new animation. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it's like they don't have the manpower to keep on producing like unique stuff, but they make do with it. And also to the thing about saying that, it's not beautiful graphically. I feel like they're more artistic with how they view things versus like just sheer fidelity. So, I'm not going to say if you zoom in on the textures, it's not going to look money. I'm not going to say they don't, but I think they focus on...
But I think, like, compared to something like, say, let's go basically for the low-hanging fruit, I think you know which game I'm going to be talking about, Horizon Forbidden West. It looked very detailed, very beautiful, but it had subpar gameplay. So,
and that's why they're mad. And that's why they're mad at Elden Ring, I'm guessing, because they're like, our game looks better than that. Why did y'all win Game of the Year?
My game looks better than that. It had a better story. It had better visuals. But I feel like it's just like, I know we're sidetracking a little bit, but I really want to talk about it since, it's never it's never old enough. But it feels like it's just basically like they just try to bring reasons, but they always forget that what about the gameplay? If you ask them that, they basically just stutter.
Mm-hmm. I see.
Like, okay, gameplay-wise, what do you think of? Okay, sure, Horizon looks has all that, but what about the gameplay? Is it fun?
Yeah. I only watched seconds of gameplay, so I couldn't tell.
It's not tedious, is it? Oh, it is? No.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, after like 200 hours into Elden Ring, I don't like to go through the same dungeon. I feel that after 200 hours in Elden Ring.
But I feel like I actually didn't.
Dungeon number 250, my favorite place.
Yeah, but you know what was the biggest revealing to me that I didn't know till I actually had some to look it up?
What?
That the boss arena for General Radam?
Yes.
Apparently,
how to get boss arena?
No, there's a dungeon on his boss arena.
Oh yeah, I'll need
yes, that one.
I didn't know about it till like way afterwards. Like, really?
Really? I found it because I found the arena and I was afraid. I just hugged the wall to see if there's a way to get up. Because I thought it was like a Dark Souls 1 situation where you find the what's that called? One of the asylum demons. You have to find an exit to run away from. So I actually found it that way because I thought, okay, am I supposed to run away from this? Because he's clearly pretty strong. Mm-hmm. And so I scurried the outside of it, see if there's something I could find. And then I found a fog where I was like, oh, I guess there was a dungeon. Noted. So that's how I found it because I always thought it was some Dark Souls 1 situation. But
anyway, we're
digressing. But I found about a guide. But yeah, no, I feel like if you didn't, most people, if you didn't think to run away from the boss, I mean that kind of shows that I was being cowardly in that fight because he was destroying me because this was before he got patched and was it neutered? I was like, what am I supposed to do with this guy?
Anyway, I think back to this. The Shadow of the Earth Tree's visuals looks fantastic, and if it is true that it's going to be inside Migla's tree, it will be interesting.
Oh, I wonder what he's going to say about Moog. He'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm done with him. He won't leave me alone. I said no. He didn't take no for an answer.
I killed Moog.
Oh, well, glad he's gone. Well, I also killed Melania. Okay, you gotta die now.
The article then continues on. Additionally, Shadow of the Earth Tree could finally prove which Elden Ring ending is canon. None of the ending's 6 endings have been confirmed as canon by software yet. Considering the artwork shown for the upcoming DLC expansion appears to feature a dying Earth Tree, it seems like the Shadow of the Earth Tree takes place after the events of the game. I could thus show which of the Elden Ring's many endings is one the Tarnished end up choosing. The artwork for the DLC may actually feature the Halig Tree instead of the Earth Tree and take place at a different time. But such possibilities are precisely what makes Shadow of the Earth Tree so much better than initial leaks about barbarians of the Badlands. The lands between and Mikola create so many questions because of their relationship to the Elden Ring's lore and story. But the Badlands, while curious, are not as important to the game.
I had to say this, but basically, though that's a bit stretched because I know that in the guidebook for Dark Souls 3, the canon ending for Dark Souls 3 is where basically the Firekeeper snuffs out the Age of Fire. But that's basically vague if it's canon or not.
Chaos Tree. Chaos ending for the win.
Anyway, going up a little bit, I remember... Go back to the picture. You have the thing still open.
Yeah, I know.
But anyway, going back to the picture, you see the shadow? Perhaps, maybe this is basically the Halig Tree before the Earth Tree took over? Because remember, people speculate that the Earth Tree is a parasite that feeds on the Halig Tree. Remember that old sponge theory? Actually, could you just hold on for 2 seconds? I need to get a drink.
Well, gentlemen, audience viewers at home, thank you so much for reading and, the articles and also following along with the podcast and such and hearing our banters and rantings. We appreciate it and we definitely enjoy you.
Darc, would you get such a voice?
Sorry, I'm just trying to fill the time. My bad.
Hello. I'm back.
Hello.
No, you're fine. Oh, man. But, I don't know. Look, people saying they don't want the Badlands. I'm trying to figure out who took out Godfrey in the Badlands. Because that person is probably an interesting challenge. Wait, you 1v1 Godfrey and beat him? Hold up. Square up. Let's square up. I want that smoke. I'm not gonna lie. I want that smoke.
I do find it interesting.
Godfrey's one of my favorite characters of all time. Like, okay, look, I know. Do you guys like Godfrey? You guys Godfrey fans?
Yeah, Godfrey's pretty cool.
He's a cool guy.
I mean,
though I don't think that axe of his is actually wieldy.
God is one and all. Bear witness.
No, you're talking about Godric. I'm talking about Godfrey.
Oh, I know. My favorite's still Godric. My favorite's still Godric because he's just so over the top.
See, okay. Godfrey's my favorite character, but I like Godric's intro. I just wish grafting was more integral to the story with how it was set up. But I feel bad for the man. Like, man got wiped by millennia, and it's essentially his divine blood is so diluted he barely has any claim to anything. So he resorts to grafting in order for him to be looked at as anything. I mean, I feel bad. Like he feels like like a common guy. It's like I just want to get by,
Mm-hmm.
But nobody thinks that I'm worth anything. I feel bad for Godric, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, who was remember that other girl that she was that woman who basically would become the new Lord of Stormvale? What was her name?
What's she trying to do?
She's the side quest where basically someone was looking for a new Lord of Stormvale after you killed Godfrey, and that she was basically a relative of Godric before he was Godric, his clan name.
Oh, Nefeli Lou? Are you talking about
Nefeli Lou.
Oh, you're talking about Nefeli Lou. Yeah.
She's technically closer to Godric than Godfrey, wasn't ironic?
Well, yeah, because I mean, it's it's theorized that she's a daughter, so that means that she has more of Godric's raging. I don't know, and I don't even what's the appropriate way of saying this? Raging genetics, I guess. Because Godric's so far diluted at this point that, poor Godric. When some random chick from the Badlands comes I got more to do. It's like that.
Okay, quick question: who do you bet this is going to basically you can only access the DLC after you kill Moog? But I bet that.
So let's look at the history. Let's look at the history of all From Software games with DLC. Dark Souls 1, you had to kill Ornstein and Smo and had to have access to Cease library in order to kill a golem to get the pendant in order to access it. So that requires Ornstein and Smo. One of the hardest bosses in Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls 2, originally you had to go through some of the lore bosses to find the temples that go to the DLCs. It's been changed a bit in the Scholar for Sin edition, but still had to go through Lord Soul bosses. Dark Souls 3, first DLC, you just had to get to Cathedral of the Deep. Realistically, to get into the Painted World.
Mm-hmm. But you could also theoretically go to the Ashes of Arian, to the Ring City, if you at the end of the game, when there's a bonfire.
Yeah, there's two ways to get into the Ring City. Either end of Ashes of Ariandel, to get into the Ring City, or get to the final boss to get to it. So those are the two ways in Dark Souls 3. Bloodborne, you to get into. You just needed the drunk. What was it? The Eye of the blood drunk hunter, which I believe you
get after killing Vicar Amelia, because it gains. There's an item that appears in the hunter's dream. Then you have to basically go to a specific amygdala, which was basically the one near Cathedral Ward, and then transported to the DLC.
And that's like, what, 3 or 4 bosses in? Because what?
Hang on, let me count that. So first up, basically, depending on how you do it, you go for the cleric piece, then you basically clear Father Gascoigne, and then basically you could either go to the Witches of Hemwick or to the Bloodstarved Beast. But if you cancel those, that's only the third. That's technically, if you get rid of the cleric beast, that's only the second boss in.
So you could do it second boss in, yeah. So okay. So knowing that, and Sekiro free DLC, which was just inner bosses, which
and I'm going to repeat this every time someone brings it up. I am convinced Melania was basically, they thought, which boss should we use? We have an unknown boss from Sekiro. Lady Tomoe from the Lady Tomoe. Let's reuse her for basically a boss that's not designed for a parry system like that.
Yes, exactly. That's all it is.
I would, what, guys? You know something?
What?
I would have preferred they just did Sekiro, the Legend of Tomoe. That would have been just so good.
What if the whole Halleck tree was supposed to be Sekiro DLC, but they didn't have enough time to put it in? They just slapped it to Elden.
And
then redesigned enemies so they look like knights.
So, back to what we were thinking. So where do you think the boss is going to basically, the DLC is going to pop up?
So from that point I brought out, most of the time, it does seem that there's a trend for later game bosses or pivotal story bosses, or in Bloodborne in Dark Souls 3 cases, really not that. So I think they might do either really late optional or story related bosses, maybe it's tied to shard bearers or whatever, or they could be you find some random portal in some random country bumpkin area and then just So I'm probably going to say, considering if it's tied to Mikla, it's probably going to require some interaction with Melania or Moog, realistically.
I'm betting Moog because you only see Mikla's body after you kill the guy.
Well, what if you know that spot after Moog's boss arena, where it's just a big opening into nothing? What if a space bridge appears? Or a dream bridge? I feel like that's my guess.
You know what? I'm going to say something. This is very odd for Rob to talk to do a DLC about a specific character. It's very weird for them. I can't actually think about it.
Well, to be honest, I basically think it's a welcoming addition. They're trying to branch out and such. And that's a very, very daring, but also very exciting.
Understandable, but I'm just saying that basically this feels really weird because let's go back. Dark Souls 1, basically talking about the Abyss and how its history.
I was going to say, to be fair, it was Artorias-centric. Yes, Artorias wasn't the main boss, but it was called Artorias of the Abyss, and it was about the legend of Artorias. That is pretty character-specific.
Yeah, but it's not... But I would say... But Artorias, yes, but... Fair point. Actually, I can't actually think of a good counter to that one. Fair point. I'm not going to talk about Dark Souls 2 because I refuse to give that game any more acknowledgement than it already has. Plus, I didn't play the DLC because
DLC is the best part of Dark Souls 2, but I don't blame you, because if you install the first, then you have to sit through most of the game before you get access to the DLC, so I don't even blame you for skipping out on
I only got the first Dark Souls 2 game. I didn't get the Scholar of the First Sins remaster.
Uh-huh.
I just got the original, and then I just thought, you know what? I like the Souls games, but this is not worth money for the DLC. So
I would say peak Dark Souls 2 is about like a 7.5 out of 10. peak Dark, like at the DLCs. It's about like average Dark Souls level.
That's not good. That's not. And I think I've already made my statement clear a bazillion times on this podcast that I hate the fact I hate Dark Souls. I hate the game.
You mean 2? Not
Yes.
1.
Yeah, Dark Souls 2.
One's serviceable outside of after Ornstein and Smell, but yeah, 1's good.
Yeah, I'm talking about the fact I hate the fact I hate Dark Souls 2.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like that basically if it was called something else, that I wouldn't even give it two thoughts. I would have thought, it's just basically, it's just like one of these fancy Souls-likes at the time.
Oh, considering there's Lords of the Fallen and all that was going around at that time. Too.
Yeah, and the fact is that basically the fact it has the Dark Souls IP name attached to it, which is a great legacy, mind you, just makes me more miserable.
Hey, Miyazaki, we can't blame Miyazaki. He just said he didn't really do anything on that. He was just
Miyazaki's evil twin that did that. As I said that. Anyway, but then again, we did get the master that is Bloodborne, so I guess...
Well, but Bloodborne, I would argue that's 3 character specific, because Bloodborne's DLC focused on Lawrence. Lawrence is a key figure, Ludwig, another key figure, and Maria, and what sin they commit that led everybody to this crappy situation.
I think I would disagree on that one because I feel like that they're just basically they are the cause of it. They are like the happenings, but they're not the final understanding. That it is basically about understanding what the hunter's first sin was,
which was killing Koss. Yeah,
cause and basically causing the stories around it is what it is. Like basically how Ludwig basically created the healing church, but fell to the very thing he was sworn to protect. Lawrence basically became the monster and a symbol of worship for the healing church. And the fact that Maria was, depending on how you see it, was basically so guilt-ridden what she did at the fishing hamlet that she took lives. Though, if you're going to basically look at cut content, Simon was the one who axed her off.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's cool. But that's cut, so it doesn't count. But
it's debatable. But again, but like I said, the thing is that basically it's just so complicated.
But going to skip into Elden Ring. Mikola is not just Mikola, though. Mikola has many different aliases because, well...
The unalloyed, the young, etc., etc.
So I feel like Mikola has all these different personas. So there's a lot of ways it could be looked at. Yeah, it could be like, well, we're focusing on Mikola. But Mikola is like all these different people in the lore. So, does Mikola have multiple souls or something like that? Like, how Melania... she has like an ancient goddess of rot inside of her that comes out whenever it blooms. So it's like, did Mikola have something similar? Like, maybe what do we know?
Yes, it'd be interesting to see what his story is about. And hopefully, remember also the fact that Ranni lost her great rune?
And her body, yes.
Yeah, maybe one day, maybe the DLC, we can actually get her rune.
That would be interesting. Because aren't we still missing pieces of the... Also, that's another thing. In the runes of Faron Azula, apparently the Elden Ring used to be even bigger. So I wonder if we can get the runes that were stripped away from the Elden Ring at some point.
And maybe if we get Ranni's and Mikola's runes, we could have a complete Elden Ring.
But my question is... here's the thing, though. The thing that bothers me is that the runes in Elden Ring, they're just so gimmicky, and they're not really that useful.
And the fact is that basically you can only use that. Basically, if you start a new game, you lose them, and that basically you have to unlock them again. Even if you basically did it the first time.
Yep, and if you die with them, you have to farm for root arcs like random rats in order to use them again. I personally think if I were designing it, I would have made it so that the rune arcs. Just gave not the rune arcs, the great runes. They just give permanent boosts to things, and it can be small. It doesn't even have to be big. They give small increase. For say you do Melania's thing, Melania's thing, you just have the passive ability to heal like Bloodborne, without having to do anything. I think that would have been cool.
might have actually been more interesting because then it would have promoted a more aggressive playstyle.
So, I feel the whole Great Runes. I don't know why they dropped the ball on it. Maybe the deal will help rectify this. Maybe, these runes are complete. You only half completed them. Now with the DLC, you can extend their power or combine them or something. I don't know. We'll see.
Your thoughts, Darc?
Only time will tell. And I will basically be interested in the story itself. Well, the shadow of the Erdtree can be one. Well, it's not necessarily a shadow, for I mainly see it as a mirage, a gateway to a more interesting narrative to be shown about the world and land between.
Is this still the article?
No.
That's your thought. That was very.
No, it's just me.
Yeah, it's just him.
That was eloquent. I like it.
Thank you.
But this is just we can rejoice as Souls fans. Hey, I'll say this to the God of War fans, Renee Clarence. I hope you enjoy your DLC or expansion or whatever is to your new get to Ragnarok.
Yeah. And I'm also I'm also happy to announce that New Game Plus is finally a thing in God of War Ragnarok.
Because I don't know why it was there in the first one. Well, when I say first one, God of War 4, but I was like, so where's NG Plus? That was a fun game. Where's NG Plus? What do you mean? Look, the only thing is about NG Plus. Can we skip the whole Angerboda section of riding the freaking yak? Like, please. That is the only thing I want to skip. Everything else, you guys know the segment I'm talking about, right?
No, I didn't play Ragnarok, sadly.
Oh, did you, Darc?
Yes, I have.
You remember the yak section where you had to just ride a yak?
Oh, yes, the infamous that infamous scene.
I don't want to look. I respect the game. I like it. It's a great game, but the yak section, please. I fell asleep through that. I literally fell. I don't even remember. All I remember is, I'm riding a yak. This is fun.
Yeah. But I think I need to cut this podcast short because Darc, my friend, my co-host Darc, needs to do something. But I wanted to just bring something up because it's been a while since we do a podcast about something. And
let me see that God of War news. Where's that?
But yes, I'm going to try to get a cosplayer. She's been a bit busy with Comic-Cons. So I want to just talk about that for a second, if that's okay, Darc.
That's totally fine.
Okay, so she's KC Mongolu, or Mongolu on Twitter. She's a Ruby cosplayer. I'll send you some of her work. Anyway, basically, she's pretty cool. I kind of asked her to be on my podcast. And I basically had to ensure her that even though we are a Souls podcast, we do like to talk about other things from time to time. Keep things fresh.
Mm-hmm.
So I was hoping that maybe we can create some, her thoughts on the Souls series. Maybe she can, hopefully we can get her to ask some questions about us, the Souls series.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts on that? You're okay with that, guys?
Yeah,
I'm totally okay with that.
Okay. So, thanks for joining, everybody. Sorry about the extra short podcast this day, but like I said, my friend has to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, I hope you have a good day. Thanks for joining up the podcast. And you know how I say it. Check out my Patreon down below. I'd like to thank my new Patreon, T-Rex Girl. She's subscribed to my Patreon. Thank you for subscribing. It's very much appreciative. Everything counts. And if you feel so generous to also subscribe to my Patreon, it's down below as usual. Also, check out my two co-hosts' YouTube channel. Darc does excellent Souls martial arts work, and Darc does excellent voice acting. I love these two, my co-hosts.
Wait, T-Rex, is your person like dinosaurs? I'm a paleontologist.
She likes dinosaurs.
They want to talk. Yeah, well, I'm a paleontologist, so if they want to talk dinosaurs, I got dinosaurs.
Well, I'll make sure to let her know. She likes dinosaurs a lot. So yeah. Anyway, any final thoughts on the whole Elden Ring DLC?
I'm just incredibly excited. I am so excited.
Yeah, believe me. You, Doc? I meant you agree?
Yeah, I'm excited.
So yes, thank you everybody for joining. I hope you all have a wonderful time. And as I always say, may the good blood guide your way.